Well, I'm breaking the news today that ASRock, you probably already know this from the title, is entering the monitor game. But are they entering the monitor game competently? Let's find out. This is the ASRock Phantom Gaming PG34WQ15R 2B. To be or not to be? That is the question that people inside ASRock have to be wondering about their monitor division. I don't know, something about suffering slings and arrows. Who knows? Well, I gotta confirm, ASRock knows how to pack a monitor. +1 for packing. Monitor controls are pretty standard, 5-way hat switch plus 3 buttons. We'll take a look more about the on-screen display here in a minute. Get the monitor stand mount as well as standard VESA mounting screws. Let's take a look in the manual and see if this whole thing just comes off, because that would be convenient. Do I have a Phillips screwdriver in the house? Now I have to commend ASRock. This is pretty genius. It has a completely standard VESA mounting setup. You can literally unscrew the plastic thing from the back, and then there's going to be no obstruction. It doesn't matter about recessed screws. You literally take this whole plastic thing off and then boom, standard VESA mounting pattern. Excellent if you're going to opt for monitor arms. You know, even Micro Center is selling good quality gas spring monitor arms these days. Fabulous. I like Spaceco myself, which is now not Spaceco. I've literally used Spaceco for almost 20 years. I was a precocious teenager buying Lehman Brothers liquidation stuff. Because Lehman Brothers really liked Spaceco too. And they were cheap. For this video, we're just going to go with the standard stand that ASRock has provided. See what I did there? Standard. It's the standard. Never mind. Now this is pretty crazy. That looks like a Wi-Fi antenna connector at the back. And that's because it is! This is a 7 dBi antenna pair at the back. Nothing infuriates me more when you get a motherboard that comes with these little antennas. You know, tell me you don't care about the Wi-Fi without telling me you don't care about the Wi-Fi. Antennas like this. These antennas are okay, but they're typically 1 to 3 dBi of gain, which means they don't really pick up much signal. And you can't really move them around. Like, you can have a completely different wireless experience if you can just move your antennas a little farther away from interference sources. So this is pretty crappy. Fortunately, most motherboards come with better wireless solutions these days. Some don't. And so for this, you can actually plug the wireless in to your monitor, and the monitor stand has some pretty decent Wi-Fi antennas built in, 7 dBi. Also like that the bottom part of this is just one big piece of metal. It's going to make it a little more sturdy. There's some monitor feet that are kind of aesthetically similar to this, but it comes in 3 pieces. That can work, but you know, one piece is better. Now, in terms of the inputs on this, we have a single DisplayPort 1.4 and 2 HDMI 2.0. As you can see, our monitor stand has a nifty cable routing hole. In the box, you get your power cord, some really thick Wi-Fi extender cables, and this is pretty cool because these are actually really low loss. It's not often that you see reverse SMA connectors that are this thick. This would be good. Remember war driving? Remember when that was a thing? These would be good. You know, I can drive around with these. It's pretty cool. And then you have one bundled DisplayPort and one HDMI cable. Quick to the cable tester. As you can see here on screen, these are the results of our total phase cable test. This is a $15,000 cable tester that I paid for because of the level 1 KVMs. Thank you very much for supporting us with the level 1 KVMs. And as you can see from the cable results, well, these are no Club 3D cables, but these are more than adequate to drive the 3440 by 1440, 165 hertz that this display uses. Now, that might not be enough. These cables might not be quite enough if you're using these in conjunction with a KVM, but they're not bad. They're not the worst I've seen. They're certainly better than the swill cables that came with the Samsung G9 Neo and the LG 4K 144. Those cables were trash. And the last and strangest accessory that has ever come with a monitor is this accessory sock. Did he say sock? It's a cable sock. Tab A goes into slot B. And then you have a cable sock. You can hide your cables with this. This is actually a really cool accessory. I should get some of these for the level 1 tech store, and more and longer. And also with little breakouts and stuff. See, the idea is you bundle your DisplayPort and wireless and power cables in this elastic, stretchy-ish sock, and then you've got some cable management for the monitor off the back of your desk. So if you've got a sit-stand desk, like our adjustable height desk here, or some of the ones that we built over the years, you can use this to cable manage into the wire tray at the back. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool accessory. It's low cost and it's nifty. Interesting. So for our Leo Bodnar test, which is just kind of an absolute latency test, it's about 6 milliseconds. There's about a 6 millisecond processing delay from the input to the time it starts to display the frame. But in this case, we're displaying a 60 hertz test signal, and unlike some other panels we've seen where no matter what, it's always running the panel at 120 hertz or 165 hertz or 150 hertz or whatever, it is actually running the panel at 60 hertz with a 6 millisecond input delay. We'll need to do some more testing to get a definitive result, but 6 millisecond input delay, not bad. 6.5-ish, okay, 6.5 milliseconds, not bad though. Now, the out-of-the-box specs for this monitor is that it's a 34-inch, 3440 by 1440 with 1500R curvature. It is a VA-type panel, so it's not IPS. And yet, they're able to achieve 91% DCI-P3 and 115% of the Adobe sRGB color space, even though it is a VA panel. Not bad. I mean, VA, gaming, okay. It also has a 178-degree viewing angle VESA Display HDR 400, which is sort of the minimum HDR specification, but it is HDR capable. This is AMD FreeSync Premium, so it has the variable refresh rate as implemented, and it's the premium version from AMD. It's advertised as a 1 millisecond response time. What that is actually is the MPRT response time. As we do our own response time testing, it's going to vary a little bit. We can look at the high-speed footage, but 1 millisecond MPRT is sort of the absolute best case scenario that you'll get from this VA panel. The maximum supported refresh rate in Windows is, of course, 165 Hz. Now, the fit and finish, the build quality with this monitor, I've got no complaints. It's above average, I think, for a monitor in this class. The anti-glare filter, which is external to the display, you can tell that it's not fused to the actual LCD panel, it's part of the case. It's one of the best that I've ever seen on a monitor like this. But because it is a VA panel, you will have a little bit of fringing and shadows at the edge. It's much less noticeable when you're looking at the display straight on, but when your head's kind of in the middle of the display, if you're sitting kind of close to the monitor like I like to sit, you could definitely see some shadows at the side. I got used to it pretty quick, but coming from using an OLED, it was pretty noticeable. If you really look closely at the top and bottom, you can see the same kind of shadowing, But I think in normal use, the same sort of like shadow fall off at the top and bottom, you're never going to see that. If your head's in just the right place, you're never going to see that on the edges either, and you can kind of see that hopefully as I move the camera from side to side. But it is something to keep in mind if you're not familiar with VA panels, because this is more of a VA panel thing than an ASRock thing. As we go through the usual suite of tests for panel response time and everything like that, MPRT is turned on. It was off by default. FreeSync Premium I turned on through the OSD, which is also off by default when I took it out of the box, unless I did something crazy when I was going through the menus. Double check those things when you get this monitor. You can probably see there's a pretty significant color shift. This is supposed to be a gray box. It's kind of a muddy brown, but that's because ASRock is overdriving the VA panel. So this is not really anything to worry about. It's just a side effect of driving the panel at 165 hertz. It's the, absolute maximum speed that this thing can do. When we look at this on the high speed footage, you can see that there are adjacent squares on. So, if you have two squares that are fully on, then it's more like 80 hertz instead of 165 hertz for refresh time. But when we average this out, this panel's running at about 100 hertz, give or take, I think, for fast motion. It's nowhere near as good as some of the highest end panels that are available today. But again, this is a VA panel, and for a VA panel, this stacks up pretty good. I'll also call out text scrolling in particular, because I think ASRock has done something special with text scrolling. Usually black text on a white screen is really challenging to do when you're overclocking a display like this, you're overdriving it. And this display does particularly well with this test. It's actually kind of shocking. I don't know what they did, but I really wish everybody else would do it, because this result's pretty good for this kind of thing. You can kind of see how this normally goes wrong on other displays. There's a little bit of a red outline to the black text. Usually that's a lot more pronounced, and I think it makes the text a lot harder to read. This has obviously been tuned to be as good as it possibly can be for this particular panel. Now, of course, faster panels are going to look better, but this isn't a bad result either. Subjectively, running video games at 165 hertz, moving around the map on Civ, pretty good. I like it. The black frame insertion test on this monitor is also particularly good, especially for this class of display. Again, I think ASRock is doing some tuning here to try to differentiate themselves in this market. If you're curious about what this new MPRT versus gray to gray or G to G time has been, fortunately Blurbusters has a really good explanation that you can read on their website and sort of experiment with it on your own monitor. But again, the result that I'm seeing here, pretty good for a VA panel. That model number, once again, is this. But just know that ASRock is entering the game as far as monitors go, and you may be able to pick them up locally, online, Newegg, Amazon, whatever. Maybe include them in your comparison shopping. Who knows? You might be able to find something that you can be pretty satisfied with. I'm Whittleless Level 1. I'm signing out, and you can find me in the Level 1 forums.